Hello, welcome to Chronicling America, a database created by the Library of Congress and the National Endowment for the Humanities. This database allows you to search certain newspapers, historic newspapers from across the country. We are going to look at how to do an advanced search right now. To begin with, here on this front page, you could do a most basic search with the box already set up for you. There's a tab for the advanced search, and then there's other tabs to do it more of a browse of certain newspapers. We're going to click Advanced Search. This option gives you a lot of different filters and choices for your searching. It all expands a lot on that most basic search. In the basic search, you could search a certain state or a certain newspaper. But using the Control button and holding down Control, you could search numerous newspapers. So say you wanted to search Alabama, Alaska, and Colorado. By holding down Control, you can search those three. Same with newspapers. By holding down Control, you could search Abbeville Banner, the Abbeville Bulletin, and the Abbeville Messenger, and the Abbeville Press and Banner by holding down Control. Now to go back to your default, you just release Control and click any button within those selections. Other choices include date. Before, in the most basic search, you could search specific years between, say, 1789 to 1943. You could also search now a more specific date range that includes both days and months. Other searching includes limiting to the front page or a very specific page. Searching languages, so in case some of the newspapers are, if you're looking for certain newspapers that may have just been written in, say, Icelandic, you could make that choice. You can also search for phrases and words using a kind of more Boolean standard. With any of the words, you can search a broad selection. With all of the words, you can search a more narrower selection. You can search certain phrases, and you can search words that are close to each other within an article. Say one thing I'm interested in is Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. So if I typed in Earp and Holliday, and I wanted to keep those within 5 words from each other, we can see which articles come up. By clicking search and leaving everything else to default, we have 77 articles where Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday are mentioned together. This first one, because we're sorting by relevance, is probably about the shootout in Tombstone. This is just, to me, such an interesting thing that you can be looking at the primary source from that event, because it discusses the hearing of the case of the Earps and Holliday came up before Justice J.B. Smith in the district courtroom yesterday morning. So all that history looked at in real time. Let's go back and do another search. Heading back to the advanced search, we have removed Holliday and Earp from our searching. Another subject I find really interesting is President Abraham Lincoln's funeral train. Now say if you were looking for President Abraham Lincoln across 1865, which is when he died, you're going to get a whole lot of information, much more information than just about his funeral train, because in 1865 was the end of the Civil War. So we'll see how many articles we get if we just look at 1865. And one thing to note is they block out everything before your original date, because it'd be impossible, of course, to look from 1865 to 1859, so they make it a little easier not to confuse yourself. So looking at 1865 and Abraham Lincoln, we'll hit search. And the choices we get are 4,285. So that's a whole lot of articles about the president. Returning to advanced search, we have Abraham Lincoln, but now we're going to narrow in that date range. President Lincoln was killed on April 15th, and he was laid to rest in mid-May. It took more than 2 weeks for him to get back to Springfield, Illinois. So we'll choose this month to search. Clicking search, we now see that we have 985 articles. So though that's still quite a few, it is much narrower than what we were looking at before. And now taking these articles, we can look at really specific things. So like if I wanted to see all the articles about the funeral train when it passed through Ohio, because that was one of the few states that it crossed through. We can choose Ohio, we can keep our dates, we can keep Abraham Lincoln, and even narrow our search even more. So I believe we had 965, and now we just have 251. You could narrow this even further, and instead of looking at a specific state, you could look at a specific newspaper from the time. My hometown is Urbana, Ohio, and it was one of the stops of the funeral train, so we can see how many articles they had. And as you can see through this scrolling, there are a whole lot of newspapers, so you really should know what you're looking for. We're in the W's, we're in the V's, and now we're in the U's. So we are looking for the Urbana Union. I think I scrolled by it. Nope. The Urbana Union. So now we're looking at one specific Ohio newspaper with these dates and Abraham Lincoln. And now we just have 6 articles from this small newspaper. So it's really interesting. You can see the dates of these. You can see real specific, again, just primary as it happened information. And the advanced search really helps you narrow in on these things. So here we have just a real specific, as it happened story about the death of the president. So I cannot focus or support enough how cool this website is and how much the advanced search really helps in the searching. So please enjoy and get some use out of this. You might learn a whole lot about history and about yourself. Goodbye.